A new flag waves in the Islamic, or should I say former Islamic capital of Raqqa today after U.S.-backed forces claim control of the last urban ISIS stronghold. ISIS on the run. Details next. U.S.-backed forces claiming control of the Islamic State de facto capital of Raqqa, Syria. This represents a major defeat for the extremist group. With me now, retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, a Defense Priorities Senior Fellow, along with retired Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff, a London Center for Policy Research Center Fellow. Colonel Davis, let me start with you. To me, it's been remarkable at the pace at which we have been handing ISIS defeats this year. I know we have momentum coming into the year, but this has been remarkable.
Well, it has, and when you look at how long we've been, especially supporting the SDF and the Kurdish forces in trying to take them out, without the support that they had when they were the Iraqis were trying to take out ISIS in Mosul. So in that regard, it has been pretty effective, yes.
Jessie Jane, so we've got ISIS on the run. I don't know where the next stronghold is. Raqqa was sort of the brains of the operation that they launched a lot of terrorist attacks in the West. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that also will be cut off to a degree.
Well, Raqqa was essentially their de facto capital, and they would parade in the square, the public square, and force the civilians to watch their beheadings and their brutal crucifixions, crucifying different civilians at different times. It was a horrible regime that was going. Over 1,000 civilians have died, and roughly 270,000 people have been displaced. But we must recognize ISIS is now to about the strength of 6,500 individuals left after their peak of tens of thousands of different ISIS members. We do expect that although we have squelched them in Syria, they're now along the Iraq and Syria border. We do think they're going to morph and practice another type of guerrilla warfare. Do not think for 2 seconds that this ideology, this Sharia supremacist mindset is going to go away.
But Colonel Davis, by the same token, the caliphate, if you will, the idea that they were pushing back against the West and that they could conquer the West has crumbled before their very eyes. They're surrendering in droves. And if you're some young kid on a computer somewhere in London or New York, you may have second thoughts about following these people now.
Well, and that's one of the biggest benefits that we have here, because I completely agree that the ideology is going to continue on, and the security of our nation is what we need to remain very sharply focused on. But anything we can do to diminish the brand of ISIS or Al-Qaeda or any other extremist group, to show that there's no success there, there's no path to anything there, then that only helps us.
Jessie Jane, on the other hand, the Taliban, we're reading more and more about them. They're becoming brazen once again. They're committing slaughter of civilians. What's our strategy there? President Trump has uncuffed, if you will, the generals in the Middle East. But do we have enough soldiers out there? And are we positioned to win? Or what's going on in Afghanistan? Because all of a sudden the Taliban, we're hearing more and more about them.
Well, obviously, our military has suffered a lot under the previous administration with lower numbers in our forces and lower readiness. However, this president has, you hit the nail right on the head, empowered the battlefield commanders to make decisions. So that's why we're seeing such great success very quickly. This battle in Raqqa only started in June, yet ISIS had been there for 3 years, making all these people suffer. So I expect we're going to see the same results in Afghanistan, and we're going to see the same results against Taliban, because now we have a no-nonsense approach. President Trump is going to go after them aggressively, and we're going to allow the people who do this job, who are the experts, to make the decisions that they need to make. I expect our military, in this case, it was the Syrian Democratic Forces, with the support of the American air and ground advisors. If we continue on this strategy, I think that we will see great success in our near future.
Real quick, Colonel Davis, okay, so we get ISIS out of Iraq, we get them out of Syria. What happens then? Because keeping the peace has been a huge challenge. We saw under President Bush, and then again with President Obama, where that proved to be as challenging as fighting these evil forces.
Well, and I think that's where we need to relook our objectives, our foreign policy objectives in the Middle East, because we're not going to succeed at that. I mean, already in Raqqa, there's already conflict between the two separate groups who claim that they have control over how the civilian government is now going to be set up. And there's possibility of yet more fighting to go on there, although with different groups instead of ISIS.
Right.
What the United States must do is use our intelligence and any other kind of assets that we have to make sure that we go after anyone anyone who threatens the United States, but we cannot solve other people's problems, especially political problems, with our military.
Yeah, I mean, the place is just a heck of a quagmire, for lack of a better word. Even though we're on cable, I won't say some of the other words coming to my mind. You guys are both fantastic. Thank you both very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Charles.
Charles.
Next, President Trump.